Hello and welcome to Flushing Town Hall, where I am today. This is my day job as Deputy Director here, and I'm grateful to this lovely organization. Check us out, flushingtownhall.org. Link is down below in the description. So today we're going to do Jins Kurd, and I'm doing it on this key. So let's jump into it. Repeat after me. Ya leeni ya leen, ya leeni ya leen, ya leel, ya leel, ya leeni ya leen, ya leel. Now let's talk a little bit about scale degrees, because I did a couple little things in there, and I want you to observe where they're happening. So this is our tonic. And just as a review, the tonic is the note that melodies resolve to, or that you feel are the most stable note in a given area. So if I were to do this, you feel this note wants to resolve down, so this note is 2, 1. And if I go ya leel, and I end on that note, you should start to feel that note wants to go up to the tonic. So we'll call that 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. And those 4 notes make up the traditional understanding of Jins Kurd. But you probably have already noticed that I'm going beyond those 4 notes. I already went to 7, and I went to 5, 6. But the 4 is the ghammaz, the note, the secondary note of importance, and the note where we modulate to other ajnas. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And on 4 I can do nahawan ya leeni, ya layli. I can also do rust. Ya layl, ya layl. Before returning down Kurd. Kurd. Ya nini, ya nin. Ya layli, ya layl. Ya layli, ya layl. Ya layli, ya layl. So already, if you've taken some of the other lessons, you might see that Kurd is very similar to Jins Bayati, and Maqam Kurd, as we'll see in the next lesson, is very similar to Maqam Bayati in terms of the options. You have this modulation point on 4, and we already saw that we could do Rust and Nahawand. I'm not going to get too far into it because we're saving those for Maqam Kurd. But just be aware that this note, 4, opens up those possibilities for you, just like in Hijaz and Bayati. 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 7, 1, 7, 1. Ya nin, ya nin, ya layni, ya nin, ya nin, ya layni, ya layli. And you saw I went 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3. Now again, this is expanding beyond the bounds of the Jins as traditionally understood. But when I sing a melody like this, ya, 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 nin, ya, ya, you can feel that we're in the same melodic area. And this flat 6, you might start to feel the ajam on flat 6. The ajam al-shayran, if you took the ajam al-shayran lesson. If not, you want to go back and do that, because we'll explore that also in more detail. But it's common to just reach that note within Jins Kurd. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Repeat that. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you'll hear a lot of sequences descending from 6, especially as Kurd became very popular in the late 20th century for a lot of pop music. There's a lot of that kind of thing going on. Ya Leel, Ya Leel. Now I did something else there, which is I changed one other scale degree. Can you guess what it was? Listen to this phrase. Ya, ya. 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. So that 2 changed, and when it's like this, 3, 2, 1, it's almost like Nahawand. And we'll see that's another possibility that kind of opens up. But it's woven into the fabric of this Jins. Ya nin, 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 Now another thing that you'll hear, and again, I'm going to get more into this in the Maqam lesson for Kurd, is this trade-off between Kurd and Bayati. I'm going to play in the upper octave for myself, just so that I make the resonance sound a little better. Ya nin, ya nin, ya nin, ya nin, ya that note. 1, 4, 3, 2. 1, 4, 3, 2. That is Jins Bayati, as opposed to 1, 4, 3, 2. 1, 4, 3, 2 for Kurd. So the 2 in Bayati is a little higher than it is in Kurd. Kurd. Ya neyni ya neyn. Ya neyni ya neyn. Ya lili. Ya lili. And that phrase used both the slightly higher second degree of Bayati and the slightly lower of Kurd. And that's something that you're not going to find in late 20th century use of Kurd in pop music, but in early 20th century and mid 20th century use of Kurd, it almost seems like Kurd doesn't stick around for very long. This jins, even though traditionally understood it's one of the main 9 ajnas, is actually one of the rarest jins, rarest ajnas in traditional maqam, at least from the period that I'm familiar with from Syria and Egypt in the early to mid 20th century. It's actually quite rare, and when you get Maqam Kurd, even Jins Kurd is the least jins that you play. You spend more time in Bayati and Rust than in Kurd. So this kind of melody, ya leini, ya leini, ya leini, ya leini. You hear that 2 changing. 1, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. سنتين وانا حايل فيك ودموع العين تناديك. سنتين وانا حايل فيك ودموع العين تناديك يا سبب تعذيبي. والاسم حبيبي سبب تعذيبي. اسمي حبيبي سنتين سنتين. I'm varying the melody a little bit. That song from Layla Murad called Sanatain is in the Maqam Kurd playlist. That's going to be linked below and is on my channel. Beautiful illustration of Kurd from the mid 20th century. سنتين وانا حايل فيك. 1, 2, 4, 3, 4. You can hear the ghammaz in that melody there. مشغول عليك مشغول ما اقدرش اغيب عنك. يا ريت عذابي طول وافضل قريب منك. So you hear that 6, 5, 4, 5, 4, مشغول 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 7. So you see this is really in Jins Kurd. It's all the same melodic area, but it's already stretching to the 7 below the tonic. And 6, 5, 4, no. So Mashghul Alaik from Karim Mahmoud, another song in the playlist below. So you want to check those out. Gorgeous songs. And there's a very specific kind of dark mood that I feel in Kurd. There, I'm using that. Raise 2. Let's practice that one. Yanin, yanin, There I used a raised 3 as well. So there's what's called Chromaticism. That's a term from Western music where you're using every accidental. Is something that really emerged for Jins Kurd in the mid-20th century, especially in Egypt. So Kurd became a wild playground to explore every kind of chromaticism. And you can see how it's easy to move from Kurd to Hijaz. Hijaz, Kurd, Hijaz. Another one that became popular is to lower the 4th scale degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is what we would call Jins Saba Zemzema. I'll make a lesson for that somewhere down the line, but you might experience this in Kurd. Yadini, yanini, yanini. Yanini, yanini, yanini. Yanini, yanini, yanin, 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 yanin. I lowered the 5 there. 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yanin, So again, that lowered 5 is almost like we're in Nahawan Murasa. And then we lower the 2. So it's like using a raised 2 and a lowered 5. All these little chromatic things, I don't want you to, and this applies in general to the Ejnas and the Maqam, I don't want you to think too much about, oh, okay, I have to remember that I can do this to that note and this to that note. You have to actually learn these melodies that I'm giving you. That's literally the whole point of these lessons. The melodies that I'm giving you and the melodies that you'll hear in the repertory. Because these little chromatic things, they don't just happen, you can't just throw them in. You have to use them in the way that they're already used melodically. You have to absorb the melodic vocabulary. Again, that's the whole point of these lessons, is to give you that melodic vocabulary for each jins. So I've given you a lot already. I'll play just a little bit more. There are, of course, songs down in the playlist. Before I finish off, a huge thanks to my Patreon supporters. The support on Patreon has enabled me to keep making these lessons free for everybody, rather than selling this valuable content. So for everyone out there who is supporting me on Patreon, you're making it possible for those who can't afford lessons or who can't afford to do it. You're making it possible for those people to take it for free. So I'm very grateful for that, and everyone out there who can't afford it, please thank the Patreon supporters. But if you can afford it, if you can afford something like $10 a month, it will go a long way towards helping me continue these series, helping me keep them free. And as a bonus, I also give free lessons in additional keys to the Patreon supporters. So after I finish recording this, I'm going to record for the Patreon supporters Kurd on some other keys like D and G. We're on Kurd on C right now. So let me finish off. Let's do a few more melodic phrases. I'll just sort of wing it. And thank you all very much for participating and for listening. And I'm not going to explain right now what I'm doing, but if you go back, if anything seems a little confusing, go back to some of the places where I used the scale degrees to explain what was happening. Ya nin ya nin ya nin That's a sort of a Kurd qafla that I've heard both Abdul Wahab and Muhammad Khairi do in different forms. There are some improvisations in Kurd there. I find this one very beautiful, so let's just try to learn this as a way to close off the lesson. So you might come down, Yanin, coming down in Nahawand on 4. Yanin, ya, ya, ya. Once again, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, follow, share, and support me on Patreon. The link to Patreon is below. And thank you all, and I'll see you in the next lesson.